Welcome to the Economy Magazine at I-24 News. I'm Binyamin, Tjong-Alvares with the news from the world markets and the global economy. Coming up, private sector takes over space exploration. And Germany brings retirees back into the fold. First, the headlines. China's use of foreign direct investment rose in the first 8 months of 2015, signaling continuous reform and expanded efforts. FDI increased by 9.2% year-on-year as China used a total of over 525 billion yuan, $82 billion, during January to August this year. The service industry absorbed about 10% of total FDI, the largest amount, representing a 20% increase from the same period last year. High-end manufacturing industries attracted the most new FDI, with direct investment growing 28% in electronic devices and over 80% in integrated circuits, while communications and aerospace equipment were up 176% in terms of FDI use and 66% respectively. And though general investment into China remained relatively stable, the use of FDI dropped in agriculture, forestry, animal husbandry, fishery, and manufacturing. Officials at the U.S. Federal Reserve began a two-day meeting in Washington, D.C. today to decide on a long-awaited rate hike. Fed Chair Janet Yellen has previously said that a rate rise is data-dependent, and given a slate of positive economic data recently, many expect the Fed to announce its first rate hike in 7 years tomorrow. Asian shares followed Wall Street higher on Wednesday as investors braced for the possibility of the first interest rate hike. The Shanghai Stock Exchange Composite Index closed up 4.9%, but both the World Bank and the IMF recently warned against raising borrowing costs, and it remains unclear how long the U.S. can guard itself from the recent global turbulence. And while oil prices are low, inflation remains below target as well.
Look at their inflation forecast. They are not hitting their inflation target. Inflation target is around 2% over the next 2 or 3 years. That forecast is not there. There is no need to rush to do it.
U.S. oil prices extended gains on Wednesday on an unexpected stockpile draw and higher gasoline prices. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures opened 57 cents higher at $45.16 per barrel and continued to rise to a day high of $45.59. Internationally traded Brent futures were a bit weaker in comparison, opening 31 cents higher and traded around $48.40. Crude prices were helped by a decline in U.S. drilling and the anticipation of a massive flow of Iranian oil once Western sanctions are lifted. International crude markets also remained weak as high supplies from OPEC clashed with Asia's slowing demand. The White House said it is up to the European Union to manage the migrant crisis, but the U.S. will scale up its intake of migrants next year. Human rights activists and others have been increasingly critical of the United States for what they say is an inadequate response. The United States currently limits the number of migrants from Syria to 1,500 per year, but said it would scale up to at least 10,000. White House spokesman Josh Earnest, however, stressed that the EU had tremendous capacity, both economically and otherwise, to address the problem if they confronted it together.
Our role in this, which is to provide significant financial assistance to meeting the basic humanitarian needs of those who are in this vulnerable position, these migrants. The United States continues to be the largest bilateral donor of humanitarian assistance to this crisis. The President has indicated that next year he would like to see us scale up the number of Syrian refugees that are admitted to this country, a minimum of 10,000 next year.
As Hewlett-Packard plans a historic breakup, the Silicon Valley giant announced another staff cut of up to 30,000 workers, or 10% of its total workforce. The drastic layoffs come on top of 54,000 jobs that have already gone over the past 3 years. They're part of a plan to cut $2.7 billion in annual costs to help the split company move past big computers and PC networks and into new markets such as cloud computing. The company will divide into 2 companies on November 1st, with Hewlett-Packard Enterprise splitting from the main company to sell servers and software that corporations use to run their operations. But CEO Meg Whitman already offered a downbeat view of the company's growth prospects given difficulties in markets such as China, Russia, and Brazil. Could outer space be the next internet? When Elon Musk sent the first commercial spacecraft to the International Space Station in 2012, it sparked the imagination of science fiction-loving entrepreneurs globally. If SpaceX is sending cargo to resupply the space station, what else could be sent up in the same vessels? Shelby Weiner has the report.
the Earth and in galaxies far, far away, the final frontier is burgeoning in the business world.
And launch of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket as NASA turns to the private sector to resupply the International Space Station.
A multi-billion-dollar market, space exploration is increasingly becoming privatized. Without political concerns, individual investors can easily fund interstellar programs. Founded by internet entrepreneur Elon Musk, SpaceX is a growing heavyweight within the celestial industry, holding contracts worth a combined $3.5 billion. Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Amazon, and other big names in business all have a stake light years away.
They're initiating the capture of the Dragon.
And now the search for extraterrestrial life is pushing galactic business into new spheres. An open source scan of the heavens will access 10 times more sky.
Just in one day, Breakthrough Listen will collect more data than a year of any previous search.
Jewish Silicon Valley entrepreneur Yuri Milner partnered with the legendary Stephen Hawking in the $100 million project, transcending the age-old search of infinity and beyond.
There is no bigger question. It's time to commit to finding the answer to search for life beyond Earth.
Whether it's searching for Martian life or landing on the moon, space is big business. Landing a single rover on Mars supports over 7,000 jobs in a $2.5 billion investment. Projects may be in the Milky Way, but the industry and its deep pockets are right here on Earth.
And we're joined now by Shelby Weiner, who just did the report we watched, for more on SpaceX and what lies ahead. Shelby.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you for coming. So Elon Musk is an amazing man. Yeah, SpaceX. I mean, what else is here?
So SpaceX is really on the forefront of the private space exploration industry. Right. But now they're starting to get some competition from Blue Origins, which was founded by the same founder as Amazon. So it's a really big business movement, and they actually just had an announcement come out today. So let's hear a little bit on that.
From Jeff Bezos.
Yes.
Launching from here later this decade, and you'll hear us before you'll see us, because our American-made BE-4 engine, the power behind our orbital launch vehicle, will be acceptance tested here.
You'll hear us before you see us. I didn't quite get that. This is Jeff Bezos, of course, talking, going head-to-head with Elon Musk.
Yes. So what Jeff Bezos is announcing is that his company is now moving to Cape Canaveral, right, and they're going to start working on some space rocket building and exploration, and are really going head-to-head with SpaceX, Elon Musk's company, which is also in Cape Canaveral.
Right.
So it's going to be...
Essentially, he's taking over a launching pad, isn't it? Like
yes.
Pumping like $200 million into it and going head-to-head with Elon Musk. Is it really going to be along the same lines in terms of the business?
Well, they're both basically in a race on making reusable rockets.
Right.
And NASA has contracted both of these companies to work on different things, and that's how Blue Origin has moved into the Cape Canaveral spot and is going to start building from there. So it's going to be a really big influx of business into that area, which has seen a drop-off in the market from space in the past years. I
recently read about this company called Planet Labs that is putting out doves, as they call it. I mean, these boxes that are going to be around the world to essentially know exactly what's going on in every corner of the world. I mean, essentially, these rockets take not just cargo to the space station, but anything you want, right? I mean, what else is there?
Yeah, so the rockets actually also are being looked at for transporting people.
Right.
Space tourism is basically the vacation of billionaires.
It's the next frontier,
and
so to speak.
It's a really big thing to try and get into space, and now they're marketing it.
Right.
It's cost about $26 billion a person.
$1 million, right?
Yes, million. Just
God,
to get into space.
Wow.
But that's nothing in comparison to what NASA's paying for a seat to get a space astronaut onto the International Space Station. So.
Right. Well, Shelby Weiner, I don't think we're going to necessarily be among those people in space, but who knows, right? You never know in the Economy magazine. Thank you very much for your report and, of course, for telling us more about space, the next frontier. And on Next Frontiers, many workers look forward to the day they can retire and turn their back to the daily grind. But what if those retired professionals still have a lot of invaluable experience to impart? Some German companies now aim to hold on to their workers longer to ensure younger employees get the chance to learn from their predecessors.
Emil Kniel may have retired back in April, but that didn't mean he had to stop working. The 62-year-old engineer decided to return to his employer, the German automaker Daimler, as part of a company initiative dubbed Space Cowboys. The aim? To give younger generations the chance to learn from former employees.
We already have the know-how. We know the whole structure. Everyone benefits. As a senior worker with expertise, I can say that it's a great feeling that they still need us and that we're still important.
Kniel is in charge of a small team tasked with adapting the factory to the needs of its aging workforce. Right now, he and his team are developing a prototype of a chair designed to facilitate work on the production lines.
Since Mr. Kniel has lots of experience, we can learn a lot from him. Not just in the professional sense, but also from a social aspect, how to behave with other people. That can be very helpful for us.
Daimler has a pool of around 600 of these space cowboys in Germany, who they can call on as and when needed. Emil works 3 days a week for 9 months of the year and is paid by the day. The scheme has helped him transition smoothly into retirement, but it's also proving beneficial for his employer.
We can say that these senior employees are cheaper than external consultants, but it primarily serves to maintain and provide the Daimler know-how. It makes a lot of sense for us as a company.
And it makes sense on a national level too. Germany's rapidly aging population and low birth rate are slowly depleting the country's pool of skilled labor. Several companies have introduced similar schemes. Bosch has been tempting former employees back into the fold since 1999. For Emil, he's getting the best of both worlds and hopes to carry on for a good few years yet.
The European Union had barely put together a third bailout for Greece, winning what seemed like an impossible battle when it got hit with another crisis. The migrant crisis has eclipsed the trade bloc's debt problems, posing a greater challenge to the EU's unity in political views and economic ability. With us on the set to discuss the threat and promise that accompanies the flow of migrants is Ayman Siksak in Financial Bazaar. Ayman, thanks for joining us. So, the migrant crisis. Threat or promise?
Well, it depends on where you're looking at. And today we want to talk about Brazil, which is a country you don't hear much about in context of the migrant crisis. Right. But there are 7,000 Syrian migrants in Brazil currently. And this is because the Brazilian embassy in Beirut is offering a laissez-passer, a rite of passage to the refugees of war in Syria. Now, for refugees in Syria who normally have to pay between $4,000 and $5,000 per person to cross the Mediterranean
in a dinghy, which may not even get there.
That's right, risking their lives without any promise in the Mediterranean to get to Greece, the option of getting to Brazil without having to pay this extremely high amount of money is very, very promising. It is complicated because Brazil is not offering nearly as much financial aid as Europe, but there is a moral issue here. Dilma Rousseff, the Brazilian president, said at least 10 million of us are descendants of Syrian and Lebanese refugees. And this is, of course, because Syrian refugees helped build what we know today as modern-day Brazil. So it's an important issue for Brazil.
Okay, and in terms of Europe, I mean, that's what we're really talking about in terms of the crisis, like what's going on there?
That's right. Well, one of the leading investment banks in Germany said that the influx of refugees into Germany could help the output of the Eurozone increase by 0.2% already in the first half of 2015. This may sound strange because of the economic burden that the refugees represent to many people, but actually the German population is dwindling. They're not having children, they're aging, people are exiting the workforce, the age of the workforce.
The pensions, right?
Exactly. And we need, Germany needs young people who are willing to work, pay taxes, increase the economy, and of course, the German Chancellor Angela Merkel knows this and is taking measures to ensure that the Syrian refugees and refugees from other countries have a way to really integrate into society and already contribute to the German economy.
Actually, it said that 6.6 million people living in Germany with foreign passports paid 4.127 more in taxes, 4,000, sorry, and more in taxes and Social Security on average than they took in social benefits.
That's right. Well, this is another aspect of the migrant crisis, the migration crisis that we don't know of.
Right. Okay, well, I'm Zigzag. Thanks for giving us more information regarding the promise that may come with the refugees. And that concludes our Economy Magazine, your daily source for economic reports at I24 News. I'm Binyamin Tjong-Alvares. Follow me on Twitter at Tjong-Alvares and send us your comments via the feedback link. Thanks for watching.